Good afternoon, everybody. If I can just begin with the usual directions about people joining online. Just to remind anyone joining online that you'll be muted until you're asked to speak. And then if you are asked to speak, if you can unmute yourself, speak, and then mute yourself again when you have finished. If you have a question, if you could press the virtual hand on the screen, and the Mayor will be able to invite you to speak one person at a time. Please do not begin speaking until the Chair invites you in. Again, if you have a comment to make, raise the symbol of the hand, and then the Mayor will ask you to speak in turn, and we'll try and keep watching the screen to make sure we invite people in the order in which they've indicated that they want to speak. If for any reason you have cause to leave the meeting, you should indicate that to the Mayor before leaving by raising your hand or sending a message in the remote chat function. And if you do have to leave during an item, you are not allowed to vote on that item if you haven't heard the whole of the debate. When we come to the recommendations, those in the chamber will be voting electronically, and I will invite you to vote orally by calling out your name and then asking you whether you wish to vote. So we are ready to start, Mr. Mayor. So can I ask all officers and guests to turn off their cameras so that only elected members are visible on the screen? And then can I ask Democratic Services, can you mute everybody and begin the recording, please? Thank you. And then hand over to you, Mr. Mayor, to commence the meeting.
Thank you, Morning Officer. Prynawn da croeso. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council meeting on Wednesday, 6th of November 2024. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and may be broadcast via the authority's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the authority. Item 1, apologies for absence, please.
Mr. Mayor, we have apologies from Councillor Kevin Gibbs. I was just going to say that we couldn't see Councillor Darren Roberts, but I can see that he has just come onto the screen, so I won't be offering apologies for him.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Members are reminded that they person.
Are you for a declaration? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Councillor Jeremy Davis sends his apologies. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Salmon. Item 2, declarations of interest. Members are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and prejudicial interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government and Finance Act 1992 related to Council Tax, Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Members' Code of Conduct. Members are reminded that they must identify the item number and subject matter that their interest relates to and signify the nature of their personal interest. And where members withdraw from the meeting as a consequence of the disclosure of a prejudicial interest, they must notify the Mayor when they leave. Are there any declarations? Councillor Brent Carter, please.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to declare a personal interest in respect of item 19, the appointment of the Section 151 officer, on the basis that the person to be appointed is a personal friend of mine, and as this report is specific to that person, I consider that my interest is prejudicial in respect of that appointment, and so I will leave the chamber and not speak or vote on the item. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Gareth Lewis, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to declare a personal and prejudicial interest in agenda item 19, appointment of the Section 151 officer. The person named in the report is known to me on a personal capacity. I will therefore leave the room when the matter is discussed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Michelle Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I need to declare an interest in item 16 in regards to council tax premium as my husband works in the department. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Any others? No declarations? Okay. Item 3 on the agenda. Minutes of previous meetings, items 4 to 15. To approve accurate the minutes of the meetings, do we have a mover, please? Leader.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to move the minutes on items 4 to 15 of the paper tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Jones.
I'd like to second the minutes, please, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. We'll take that to the vote then, please.
Thank you. And can I ask Councillor Paula Layton, are you for, against or abstaining?
For. For.
Thank you. And Councillor Darren Roberts, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Sorry, everybody, this is just coming through really slowly. I'm sure you are all voting. And that is carried, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Monitor Officer. Move on to item, excuse me, item 16 of the agenda. Council tax premiums on long-term vacant and periodically occupied dwellings. To consider the report of the Chief Executive, Councillor Anna Williams-Price. Can you address the members, please?
Thank you. This report outlines Merthyr Tydfil Council's proposed changes to council tax premiums on long-term empty and periodically occupied dwellings. Since 2017, Welsh councils have had discretionary powers to impose premiums on such properties to address local housing needs. There is already a premium in place for long-term empty and periodically occupied properties of 100%, and from April 2025, the aim is to implement a tiered premium structure with 100% premium for properties vacant over a year but under 5 years, 150% for 5 to 10 years, and 200% for more than 10 years, specifically targeting persistent long-term empty properties. For second homes, a consistent 100% premium will remain. These proposals follow a recent public consultation with the majority supported increased premiums to incentivise property reuse. The Council also proposes exceptions for properties under renovation or newly purchased to avoid undue burdens on owners actively working to repurpose their properties. This strategy aligns with Merthyr Tydfil's broader goal to enhance local housing availability. We have report author Mark Price available to answer specific questions this evening, and there are 7 recommendations which I will go through. It's 2.1. The charging of 100% council tax premium on section 12A long-term empty properties that have been empty greater than 1 year but less than 5 years, with effect from 1st of April 2025, be approved for the new financial year 25-26. The charging of a 2.2, the charging of 150% council tax premium on section 12A long-term empty properties that have been empty greater than 5 years but less than 10 years, with effect from 1st of April 2025, be approved for the new financial year 25-26. 2.3, the charging of a 200% council tax premium on section 12A long-term empty properties that have been empty greater than 10 years, with effect from 1st of April 2025, be approved for the new financial year 25-26. 2.4, with effect from 1st of April 2025, the council tax premium charge on section 12B periodically occupied second homes remaining at 100% for the new financial year 25-26 be approved. 2.5, the continued availability of a local council tax class 8 local exception, new owners / composite properties, as referred to in Appendix 1, be approved to not charge a premium for 2.51 new owners. This exception under 12A will only apply to new owners of long-term empty properties where the statutory exemption has already been applied to the property and a council tax premium is chargeable. A council tax premium will not be charged for a period of up to 12 months. Instead, a standard charge will be applicable, and upon expiration of this period, a council tax charge premium will be applicable. This exception be approved to continue into the new financial year 25-26. 2.52 composite properties. These properties would fall within 12A and Section 12B of the Act, and the intention would not to charge a council tax premium on qualifying properties, but to continue charging the full standard council tax. This exception be approved to continue into the new financial year 25-26. 2.6, the introduction of a Class 9 local exception under renovation up to 6 months, as referred to in Appendix 2, be approved to come into effect from the 1st of April 2025 for the new financial year 25-26. And 2.7, the provision of a further report to Council in respect of the Council potentially taking direct action to intervene in respect of properties where it becomes clear that there is no realistic prospect of an owner taking any action to enable reuse, be agreed. I move, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Owens-Price. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Jamie Scriven.
Yes, Mr Mayor, happy to second.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members, please? Councillor Declan Salmon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My questions aren't for Mark Price and Martin Jones, the authors of this report, so I don't really know where I stand with this, because originally I was of the opinion that these premiums were brought in to try and reduce the numbers of empty properties in the borough. Now, as of the 1st of April, when this went to scrutiny, the number stood at 529 long-term properties, but now there's 643 long-term properties. Are we allowed to ask questions on that? Because this is not working, and it looks like, and people are going to comment on this, that this is a money-making exercise because it's not working.
I'm not sure that that's actually what this report is about, Councillor
I know,
Salmon.
but it's kind of included in the report, so I can't ask Mark this because this is not Mark's. This is not down to him at all, and this is putting pressure really on his department.
Well, in that event, I don't think there's anybody who can answer that question, and that means that it's not something that anybody would be in a position to assist with because it's not directly related to this report. I don't know if anybody, I don't know if Chief Exec wants to make any comment which might help.
No, what I was going to say, Councillor Salmon, and we can certainly go away and look at the data, come back to you, because it may not be. There may be other reasons for that in terms of the policy may still be having an effect, but obviously other factors may be increasing that empty property issue. So what I suggest is that we take that question offline.
Right.
We'll come back to councillors with further information on it.
Okay. So if I put my questions in an email to yourself, copying all councillors, officers, and send it.
Absolutely, and we'll do our best then to try and investigate that and come back to you.
Okay. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Salmon. Councillor Clive Jones, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is in relation to, so on page 52, paragraph 1.8, it says there, currently within Merthyr Tydfil, as at the 31st of August 2024, we have 1,080 empty and unfinished properties, of which 643 of them have been empty in excess of 6 months. I wonder, Mr. Mayor, has Mark got the up-to-date figure, or is it exactly the same as 2 months ago?
The figure that is present within the report represents properties and Class A, which are properties undergoing or requiring renovation. For those that are just empty and unfurnished dwellings, as well as those that are empty between after 6 to 12 months, they're not necessarily premium, and of course the premium charges. With regard to the figures that you state in there, the fluctuation is very minimal. You know, as at the end of August, the total long-term empty properties were, you know, as was recorded, and they've only fluctuated by about 5 to 10 different properties on there. So there's not a lot of movement in there. What I have seen since the premium was introduced, going back in 2023, it is more direct engagement with the taxpayer And we've got a lot more properties now where they are being treated as under renovation. Because go back in 1st of April in 23, I've had roughly about 70 properties that we had down as being renovated. And as of the 30th of October, 114. So there's a lot more people actually being proactive in trying to do something to bring their properties back into use. Those that go empty, just periodically because a tenant or person moves out and they leave a property just empty for a short period of time, they fluctuate day to day. But again, the numbers on there haven't really changed a great deal. The number of properties that we've got as a charge and a premium have actually increased. For those in the category 1 to 5 years, they've increased. They've gone, not a great deal, but we're about 30 more properties now we charge in a premium charge than we were in 1st of April 2023. With regard to the proposal, just as being highlighted here, looking at the properties 5 to 10 and 10 plus, there's 99 properties we've got that fit into those two categories. They've only fluctuated, I think it was 105 go back on the 1st of April 23. So there hasn't been much of a reduction in the long-term empty properties over the last 18 months. In answer to some of what Mr. Salmon said a little bit earlier, we do have direct relationship with the Environmental Health Department, and we do communicate and we try to liaise as much as possible for our records so that they can communicate with these people who have long-term empty properties. And post-meeting, it is proposed that we will communicate with Environmental Health and contact them directly for these long-term empty properties to try to establish why that they are to remain empty. It's not the responsibility of the Revenues Department. Our responsibility is to charge correctly based upon the circumstance of the property and to collect the taxation upon it. But we do have a direct relationship with other departments and stakeholders to ensure that people are treated fairly.
Thank you, Mark, for that detailed answer. Quite interesting. Mr. Mayor, my second question is on page 56, and I refer members to paragraphs 5.5 and 5.6, and I read the relevant part of 5.5. A number of empty properties do have considerable levels of council tax outstanding, most relating to years prior to the 1st of April 23, and have to date displayed no intention of engaging with the council or indeed of bringing the empty property back into use. Then it goes on to say in the paragraph below, 5.6, that the council have limited recovery remedies through council tax legislation to deal with these cases, but it can and does use options permitted through the powers allowed by the Magistrates Court, example, enforcement agents, charging orders, including forcing the sale of the property and initiating bankruptcy proceedings. I wonder, Mr. Mayor, does Mark have any idea, because there's no figure there, of the numbers that we are talking about there?
Are you talking about individuals that are in arrears for the long-term?
Well, the number of properties, really.
Well, the number of properties are for those that we've actually got currently as empty. So each of them has got a taxation liability. With regard to the statement about arrears, it's a very difficult to give it a specific answer, because I've got probably 19 of the 20 oldest properties we've got currently. They've been empty for many years, are paying, and many of them paying through direct debit. I think it was 19 of the 20 that are actually paying currently. So, but then yet there's others then, the property have only been empty for 2 or 3 years. It is very difficult to engage with, exactly as was stated there. So, to give a specific answer, to say that the longer the property is empty, to say that the arrears go up, that's not true. So, it depends on the individual and the circumstances and their desire, if you wish, to pay the charge.
But obviously you've got cases where there is outstanding arrears, and as it's quoted here, they got no intention of engaging with the council. how many of these cases, for example, have been taken to the local magistrates court?
All of them.
Right.
And, you know...
And what was the conclusion that they...
Well, as it stands, as far as the stage at this particular point in time, an enforcement agent, either internal or external, would have gone and visited, you know, the individual to try to establish communication in pursuance of collecting the liability. Taking it to the next stage, we have taken a couple for charging order, but the circumstances relating to that have got to be correct, because the debt has to be on that particular property, not across multiple properties, and there has to be enough beneficial equity within the property for us to take to that stage. Having a charging order is fine, secures the debt, but it doesn't necessarily give us the money for the debt. We would have to go back to court and get an order of sale, you know, to force the sale, which obviously has got a greater burden upon the local authority in being able to do that. We haven't gone to that level as yet.
Okay. And my last question is on page 57, paragraph 5.14. Obviously, there's a lot of work going on there, but you have obviously come across, and I quote, properties where they state they are not empty, the owners, and that indeed they're occupied either by a tenant or by the property owner. These cases have needed a more detailed review, including personal visits to the property and requests of evidence of occupation, tenancy agreements, utility bills. Again, I've got no sense there as to how many we're talking about. Are we just talking about a small hardcore, or are there quite a few of them?
The policing of the scheme is difficult, because whereas you try and establish whether the property was empty, now people are just saying that they're actually in occupation, which is kind of a role reversal. What we're finding is that certainly for those properties I mentioned about undergoing renovation, every 6 months now we go in and check in, because that's what the officer is for, to establish that the works are still ongoing, to see that the exemption, even though there's no charge in there, is appropriate. So with regards to the question you've asked, we get numerous queries, telephony, written correspondence and actual visits. You know, the actual number of visits that would occur in relating to these premiums would probably an average roughly about 20 to 30 a week, where there would be direct engagement and come in and go into that individual's home and check in to make sure that it's appropriate. That one, were you charging correctly, should be a premium, whether it can be accepted under the various exception classes and the legislation, and you know, to try to, you know, assist the taxpayer if we can, or to tell them they've got to pay. So it is quite onerous, but in addition to trying to police the premium side of it, the inspector is there also to identify new properties as and when that they are being brought into, to make sure that they be brought into rating, so the fact we maximise our tax base. So it's a, you know, the role is double-edged. One is to police the scheme, and second is to make sure that all properties that are there are brought in and are correctly charged.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Andrew Barry, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I welcome the report. I think any attempt to bring houses back into play at the same time raising revenue for us is only a good thing. The question I have, Mark, is that when we brought the original report, when we started to change this after the SIPFA rules were changed, we give you extra resource to do it. With these changes, have you got enough resource to enable us to police this correctly? Or would you need extra? I mean, we can put extra resource in on a number of levels to try and bring those houses back, but specifically for this report, have you got enough resource to do it?
With regard to the what this actual report is, it's looking to create a caveat to try to encourage the owner of the property to bring the property back into use. You know, it isn't there to necessarily raise additional revenue, because that, you know, it's part of the Housing Wales Act. It was, as you stated there, to bring the properties back into use. The empirical evidence, as it shows currently, if with regard to the number of properties they've got at any one particular point in time, the various classifications, doesn't demonstrate, you know, that. However, you know, as I've said earlier, about the number of properties and people we're engaging and those that are under renovation currently are greater than what they were 6 months ago. So there is a clear pattern there and evidence to say that it is working. But is it working quick enough? You know, maybe that is the question. As far as what we're required to do in charging correctly and making sure, as I just did to Councillor Jones there, identifying new properties, the officer and the resource we've got, then yes, I think is appropriate. With regard to the other mechanisms of recovery, of charging order of sale, and maybe if we went to compulsory purchase orders, if, as it states there, to bring a report back to discuss further actions, it would have to be greater further engagement with other departments, housing, legal, to look at, you know, the measures and whether we have that capacity. At this particular point in time, for what I've been tasked to do, my answer to you is yes. But when we're looking about further draconian actions, possibly not.
All right. Thanks, Mark. That's right.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Councillor Anna Williams-Price, is it a question, Anna, or
Yes.
otherwise you'll close the debate and there's others?
No, I was only going to come in to give my view on some of the points raised by Councillor Salmon and others. Is that appropriate to do now?
Yes, as long as it's just an answer to something that's been raised. But in fairness, Councillor Salmon didn't really ask a question in the end, because he agreed that he was going to put his questions in writing.
Thanks. It was also raised by Councillor Jones, and it's just really to stress the point, as Mark has raised, that we're certainly particularly alert to the fact that this report doesn't provide a complete solution to the problem of long-term empty homes. That's why we are resolved, if agreed, to bring a further report which further outlines the work that we can do in this area.
Thank you, Councillor Williams-Price. Councillor Jamie Scriven, please.
Like I say, I think Anna pretty much covered what I was going to say, but if anything additional towards that is also, Mark, obviously when we bring further reports back to the council, if there's any way we've got comparatives to see how we're actually doing in terms of bringing properties back into use in comparison to other authorities, I think that'd be really handy for full council to see and actually look at how the scheme is working, Pan Wales as well. I don't know how we'd actually get that data and where you need support to do it, but I think it'd be quite handy to see actually where the scheme is working and perhaps any good practice that we can take on board for further measures as well.
That's fine. I think that it comes into the question Councillor Salmon raised at the very outset of this meeting, was that, you know, for the measure with environmental health and engagement with the grant scheme and everything else, you know, for me, the only way to be able to try to measure would be to look at a line in the sand, a point in time, say the 1st of April, you know, and look at all those that we've currently charging, and at the end of the financial year for those that were charged a premium. But that would be a manual task. It's just not going to be an easy task then to go and identify actual properties being brought back in, because it may well be that we've had no engagement at all, and it has been nothing to do with the local authority that property has been brought back into use. It's all been done by the taxpayer themselves, you know, and to bring the property into use, and it is now available for let for whatever. So yet it can be looked at, but to make you aware, it would be a manual task, and I don't think there's any measures out there with other local authorities that I'm aware of at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Scriven. Are there any more questions, please? No. We go to comments then, members. Councillor Clive Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we all welcome the fact that there's going to be a further report, but I think we need to get down, if we can, to the real nitty-gritty, and that is exactly how many properties, because the idea of this scheme is to encourage people if they've got an empty property, and we all know properties that have been empty 10, 15, 20 years or more, they need to get on with it to put these properties back into use so that families, for example, can occupy them. You know, I know 1,080 properties empty throughout the county borough. That's a hell of a lot. A few hundred of them are due to the fact, for example, that the occupier is in a residential care or there are other reasons for it. But according to the report, we've still got 643 that we're trying to deal with. So what we essentially want is to find out if it's working and how many are being coming back off the pipeline back into use.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Councillor Geraint Thomas, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I think all the members here today, when we originally signed up for this course of action, was to bring empty properties back into use, and especially the properties that blight our communities, because there are lots of them. But I think the problem we have at the moment is, I don't know if anyone read the press last week, Merthyr now has the fastest increase in house prices in Wales. It went up 9.5% this year. So when you look at, say, average house price in Merthyr now is over £100,000. If we are charging council tax between £1,500 and £2,000 for a terraced house, you know, that's 1 or 2% really, where, you know, 9.5% increase in the amount that property's worth year in, year out, people are going to sit on it if they've got that cash in the bank. And I think perhaps what we need here is some extra legislation from Welsh Government that gives us the powers and forces the arm of people to sell a dwelling, because I don't think it's fair the houses can be left, you know, empty for 10, 15, 20 years, just seeing the house price increase, the value. And there's people then living, as we know, in HMOs and on the street. So I think, guys, we should be looking for that extra legislation.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Claire Jones, please.
Yeah, mine is just really simple, Mark. I just a comment to yourself. How, you know, I looking at this, 334 people answered, and I just wondered if there's anything further we could do, just to see whether we could get more engagement with people participating in our surveys, or, you know. So I just wondered, it's not a question, it's just my thought. How do we get people to engage? But it's not.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. So we'll take it to the vote then, please.
So, Councillor Paula Layton, can you tell me, are you for, against or abstaining, please?
For.
Thank you. And Councillor Darren Roberts, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. And that's carried, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Monitoring Officer. Item 17, Treasury Management Outturn Report 2020. Oh, sorry, Mark. Yeah, you can leave if you. Thought you wanted to stay. Yes, sorry. Item 17, Treasury Management Outturn Report 23-24. Consider the report of the Chief Executive. Councillor Anna Williams-Strice, please.
Thank you. This report is one of 3 Treasury Management regulatory reports that is required to be reported to full council each year in line with the requirements of the relevant code of practice. The 3 reports required to be reported to full council are a strategy before the start of the financial year, a mid-year report and a report after financial year end detailing activity during the year. This is the backwards-looking report providing Council with details of the Treasury management activity and its compliance during the 23-24 financial year. Treasury management activities are highly regulated. It is a function undertaken by the accountancy team, supported by Arlene Close, the Council's Treasury Management Advisors. It is the management of the Council's cash flows, investment and borrowings, and the management of risk associated with those activities. The Authority's Treasury management and capital strategies for the period covered in this report were approved at full Council on the 8th of March 2023. Section 2 of the report covers the key statistics and economic background influencing Treasury management activity during the period the report covers. It's clearly been a challenging environment within which we have had to operate, with lots of volatility around interest rates and inflation. Section 3 covers the borrowing strategy, detailing the borrowing requirement, reducing to 19.708 million from 31.055 million, as approved by Council on the 8th of March 2023. This being as a result of changes in the capital programme, such as additional grants received and spend moving across financial years. The Council's capital financing requirement is its underlying level of borrowing needed to fund the existing capital programme, and this was 152 million at the end of the year, compared to the estimate of 165 million when the capital and treasury strategies were approved. Also at Table 2, we can see the changes in borrowing and investments over the year, closing the financial year with 123 million net borrowing. Section 8 details that Treasury managed performance was well within budget. Sections 9 and 10 detail the indicators which are monitored. All indicators were complied with during the year, with one exception. The borrowing maturity indicator category between 5 and 10 years was outside of the range approved, and the reason for this non-compliance was explained at full Council 21st of February 2024. If I take you to the recommendations, there's just 2.1, which is the Treasury Management Outturn Report, including Treasury and Prudential indicators for 23-24, be received and noted.
Thank you, Councillor Williams-Price. Do we have a seconder, please? Leader.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Happy to second the report.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Any questions from members, please? Councillor Darren Roberts.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. A couple from me. First off, Table 4 provides details of the investments. Can we invest in other areas to increase income?
Councillor Williams-Price.
Thank you. Sorry, waiting for the mic. Thank you, Councillor Roberts. There is statutory guidance provided by Welsh Government which states that we need to prioritise security and liquidity above return on investment, so we do need to take a prudent approach when setting our investment strategy prior to the start of each financial year. So as a result, we cannot invest in higher risk investments simply to earn a higher rate of return.
Thank you, Anna. And my last question, can you provide assurance that the indicator that was not compliant has been addressed going forward?
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Roberts, I am able to provide that assurance. The non-compliant indicator relating to debt maturity between 5 and 10 years arose as a result of the overall level of debt being less than estimated, which resulted in a larger percentage falling into the 5 to 10 year category. As stated, this has been addressed by adjusting the limits in the Treasury Management Strategy, which was approved by Council on the 17th of April.
Thank you. That's it from me, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts and Councillor Williams-Price. Are there any more questions, please? No. No. We'll go to comments then, please. No comments? Okay, we take it to the vote.
Councillor Paula Layton, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Darren Roberts, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. That's carried, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Monitor Officer. Shall we move on to item 18? Corporate restructure Deputy Chief Executive's portfolio. All right. Okay, item 18, corporate restructure Deputy Chief Executive's portfolio. To consider the report of the Chief Executive, Leader Brent Carter, please. Could you address the members?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Today, we bring forward a corporate restructure report, a strategic proposal aimed at reshaping our leadership structure to strengthen Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council in the face of evolving challenges. This report, developed in response to the upcoming retirement of our Deputy Chief Executive, proposes a realignment of leadership responsibilities instead of filling the Deputy Chief Executive role. This restructure recommends redistributing the portfolio across our existing directorates. This approach allows us to achieve three key objectives: maintaining service continuity, enhancing operation efficiency, and controlling our financial commitments. I just want to draw your attention to several critical components of this restructure, with the key points being the redistribution of responsibilities. Public protection will move under governance and resources and estates. Property services and procurement will align to finance. To maintain focus on economic regeneration, we'll introduce a head of service role dedicated to this area. Cost efficiency, removing the Deputy Chief Executive post results in cost savings. I encourage all members to consider the long-term benefits of this restructure as we discuss its potential impact on our council and our community. I'd like to draw your attention to the recommendations in this report, and we are seeking your approval. But for initial clarity, I will not be proposing recommendation 3. So the two recommendations on the table this evening are 2.1, reallocation of the Deputy Chief Executive's portfolio and subsequent deletion of the post as outlined in this report be approved. 2.2, the creation of a new head of service role for economic regeneration and housing be approved. I so move, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Williams-Price.
Thank you. Happy to second, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Williams-Price. Any questions from members, please? Councillor Geraint-Thomas.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, can I just ask, why has 2.3 been withdrawn at this late point in time when it's been published in the press?
Councillor Carter.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Thomas. I think what you probably need to remember is on lots of occasions, recommendations are removed at a late point of time, especially over the last 2.5 years as well. In terms of this report, it's been removed because we don't feel it's the right time to consider this on this occasion.
Can I ask a supplementary question on that? So, Councillor Carter, when do you feel the right time will be?
During the budget setting process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Lisa Mitten, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, hopefully this isn't as scripted. I felt I was in PMQs today with a scripted Q&A earlier. No, hopefully it's not, because I haven't set out this question previously. This is just straight from me. As the leader has taken this report, happy for the leader to answer it, if not happy for an officer to answer it. But can I refer to 7.6 in the report, please, and ask this question? Why, especially as the leader has just quite clearly set out the benefits, etc., but also, despite taking away 2.3, what we do clearly see within this report is the importance of such a significant post, especially with the additional remuneration, with the competitiveness advantage that we do need here in Merthyr Tydfil. We do need to get top-tier candidates, and therefore my question is, why then at 7.6 for such a significant post does it say opportunities for ongoing savings will be explored in the event of an internal candidate being appointed to the vacant post? This post is an amalgamation of a number of different portfolios, specifically regeneration and housing, two significant areas for this council. So therefore, why aren't we going externally in the first instance, or externally and internally, to get that competitive advantage and to get the right calibre person in this post? Thank you.
Councillor Carter.
Yeah, I can answer that quite quickly, actually. Councillor Mitten, the post is already advertised for external and internal candidates. And I do believe, and Ellis can correct me if I'm wrong, but the 33,000 is equated to everything. And if it's an internal candidate, it comes in a bit cheaper.
Okay.
Sorry, just to lead on from what the leader's saying there. So we want to be as transparent as possible. So obviously from a financial perspective, if an internal candidate were successful, there would be a change to that remuneration position in terms of the saving. So we just needed to flag it. We're not saying that's being the case, but because it's open advert, but we just need to flag it in the finance section.
Yeah, thank you. It was just not clear in the report that it had gone externally, and that isn't clear when it's a public-facing document as well. It's specifically just referred to an internal candidate. So thank you for clarity, Leader, and thank you for clarity, Alice.
Yeah, apologies for that. It's the savings only applicable if it's an internal candidate.
Yeah,
so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitten. Any further questions? Councillor Andrew Barry.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. The position is very similar to when we let Chris go. Is it's different enough so we can advertise this post?
Sorry, can you clarify your question?
So it's very similar to when we had a similar officer in that position. Was it 2 years ago when Chris?
Oh, in terms of the head of service, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I know time.
No,
yeah, so it is. It was Chris, wasn't it? Yeah.
Is that long ago?
I'm just saying, don't remind me. So is the post similar or different enough so that we can advertise that type of post again?
Yeah, so I'll start. So obviously with Alan exiting the position, his position, obviously Alan has been leading directly in terms of regeneration and housing for that context. So to answer your question, there is a slight difference in terms of portfolio, but it's an area that through deliberation, looking at what the structure opportunities are, I feel that there's a requirement to have a head service leading that section robustly for the authority. If we're not having obviously a deputy chief exec or director there to hold in the entire portfolio. So that bit is without somebody to lead the strategic position in terms of regeneration and housing. So.
Just conscious in terms of when we make those appointments to similar appointments that have gone before, we just don't leave ourselves open to legislation.
Yeah, so we've looked at it. We don't believe we have. Obviously, there's the fundamental difference is we removed the head of service because we had a director to lead it, or deputy chief exec to lead it. Obviously, deputy chief exec or director portfolios go in. Therefore, the head of service is required.
Thanks.
Sorry, Alan, do you have anything to add to that?
Not really. Obviously, when Chris went, I took direct management responsibility for the service because it's my professional expertise. But obviously, without someone of my experience and background, then Ellis will need a head of service in place.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Councillor Michelle Simmons, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A very kind of simple question for me. Why have the other directors, or why have the directors left the room if we're not talking about the directors' remuneration?
It's still about their portfolios. It's about the distribution of responsibilities. So arguably, it could be said that it's not appropriate for them to stay.
Thank you very much, Gareth.
Thank you, Councillor Simmons. Are there any more questions, please? We go on to comments. Councillor Lisa Mitten.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. whilst I still have some concerns that I do feel in some aspects this may be leaving our chief executive in a little bit of a vulnerable position, and us as a local authority with the changes, albeit with the taking out 2.3 now for this evening's discussion, and the clarity around the external and internal post, as well as some of the savings that we may actually see, I just want to say then that I would be happy to support this report. Thank you for the clarity.
Thank you, Councillor Mitten. Councillor Geraint Thomas, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think if we look back to the deliberations we had set in the budget in the past, when that head of regeneration, housing and public protection role was taken out of the structure, we had some real strong debate in the chamber about whether it could go or not. And I think the only reason why we allowed it to go was because of Alan's experience in that post and in that role. Now we lose Alan very shortly. And I think Alan just, hit the nail on the head. We need someone of Alan's, there's not many out there with Alan's experience to pick up, his mantle and run with it. So I think from the independent side of the chamber, and I hope our Labour colleagues will support us, we need to get a real, we can't get a substitute or for Alan, but someone as possibly as close as to take up that role.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas.
Councillor Carter will close the debate.
Yeah.
There's nobody.
Anybody else before Councillor Carter comes in? No. Councillor Carter.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to everyone here this evening for agreeing to this report, and thanks Lisa for agreeing to it. In terms of where we are, Geraint, I couldn't agree with you more at this particular moment in time. Alan is on his own. Alan is Alan Owen, and he'd be a sad loss to this authority. Replacing him will be a tough task. So we've got to ensure through the robust process that we've got the best possible person to replace him, because he will be sadly missed by this authority. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. So we take it to the vote. Members, please.
Councillor Paula Layton, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Darren Roberts, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. And that's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mona Grosser. Just come back in.
I don't know. I think they've gone. Are they all gone? Because Craig has to go.
Right, okay. Move on to item 19 on the agenda, appointment of the Section 151 officer. Consider the report of the Chief Executive. Councillor Anna Williams-Price, please.
Thank you. This report outlines the responsibilities of a Section 151 officer, the role functions and requirements, and any restrictions applied to the role. It provides an overview of the recruitment process that has been undertaken, and considering this information, the report gives one recommendation, which I will now move. 2.1, the appointment of the Section 151 officer as set out in 5.1 be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Williams-Price. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor David Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to second the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Are there any questions from members, please?
Councillor David Jones, you appeared on the screen and then you went off again. Will you just cancel your microphone? No hands. Yeah. Thank you.
No questions? Any comments? Councillor Anna Williams-Price, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You moved the report, so if we could just hold on to you for a moment.
I was just going to check if you're happy to come in and close the debate. Thank you.
I think Councillor Geraint Thomas
Yeah.
wants to speak first.
Councillor Thomas.
I'd just like to say, Craig performed really well at the interview. We were all very, very pleased with his performance, and he'll be a great asset to this local authority going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. We try again, Councillor Anna Williams-Price.
Thank you. Just to close the debate, Mr Mayor, I was just going to ask you if, as part of the meeting at some point tonight, you could welcome Craig Flynn on behalf of the council. Obviously, with him not being able to be in the room, I haven't been able to do so during this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams-Price, but I believe he has left.
But in due course.
Yeah.
So you will do.
Yeah, no worries. In due course, yeah, I will. Thank you. We'll take it to the vote then, please, members.
Councillor Paula Layton, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Darren Roberts, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. And that's carried, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Monitoring Officer. Just information reports now. Okay, members, item 20, information reports, appointment of committees for the municipal year 24-25, to receive the report of the Chief Executive, and item 21, representatives to other bodies for the municipal year 24-25, to receive the report of the Chief Executive. Item 22, to deal with any other urgent business or correspondence, I have one. Councillor Andrew Barry, please.
Thanks, Mayor. I've been away on my return. There was a meeting about Thomastown Park, our oldest, and in my case, in our case, the most beloved park in the borough, as it's the oldest public park. I understand hundreds of thousands of pounds have been redirected from the park, which has been in there for the last 2 years. Can I ask who made that decision and where that money's gone?
Not at this meeting. What you can do is put that as a question which can be answered for you.
All right.
But you can't do that without asking in advance on a proper formal basis, and then you can get a proper formal answer.
Rather than try to come through, if I do it by email?
You can do it whichever way you want, and
Yeah.
at some point it can be reported back to council if that's what you want, but we can't just
No,
spring
really.
it on people here.
Okay, lovely. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Councillor Brent Carter.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I know I haven't approached you before now, and it's my fault. I completely forgot. But could you give me 20 seconds for a quick announcement? Yeah, thanks. It was remiss of me in the last full council meeting. I forgot to say congratulations to Scott and his wife on the birth of their new child. So thanks for that, Mr Mayor. Much appreciated. Congratulations, Scott and family.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Congratulations, Councillor Thomas, our new partner. Okay, item 23, to receive communications from His Worship the Mayor. I have none, so I declare the meeting closed. Thank you, members.